This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, an online learning community. Do you ever worry if you're doing research and prospect management correctly? At the Institute, we turn researchers into fundraising intelligence assets, leading your development officers to the biggest and best donor prospects, and bringing your organization major gift success.
The research that we've done on programs without a major gift program versus those with a really good mid-level program, the ones without, donors move into major gifts at a 0.2 to 1.2% rate on their own into major gifts. With a mid-level program, we see between 3 to 4% of donors in that space move to major gifts, and that's significant.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Jeff Schreifels, principal and owner at Veritus Group. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
It's great to be with you, Jen. So glad to be here.
Before we dive into a discussion about finding major gift prospects, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share how you found your way into fundraising, and then what is your role? Tell us the story about Veritus Group too.
Okay. Well, I kind of fell into fundraising, literally. I had no background in fundraising. I graduated with a history degree and teaching degree. So I thought I was going to teach inner city high school in Philadelphia. But there were no jobs at that time. And we're talking like 1988. So I just called up random nonprofits and said, hey, do you have a job? Because I needed a part-time job, and got a hold of one nonprofit, and they said, well, actually, we need a fundraiser. And they hired me. I had no background in fundraising, but because I was probably willing to accept such a low salary, they said, we'll take you. And I learned everything I could in 6 years with that organization about fundraising, from, writing direct mail pieces to working with major donors to holding events. It was incredible. And then I went on to be a development director for another larger nonprofit in Philadelphia. And then after that, I got hired to work for an agency, a direct response agency out of Seattle called Domain Group. And I got to work with incredible nonprofits all over the country, large nonprofits like Feeding America, Arthritis Foundation, American Cancer Society, and work on the direct response side. And then when they sold that agency, the former owner, Richard Perry, and I got together, and we came together, and he had his own major gift side of work that he did. And when he sold the company, they let him have that part of the company. And it was just a small thing that he did on his own. We came together and rebranded that to Veritus Group in 2009. And what we do at Veritus is we work with nonprofits all over the world today to help them create, build, and manage mid and major gift programs. And along the way, we also started in 2016 what we call a Veritus Group Academy, which is a training center online for fundraisers all over the world to help them develop their skills in mid and major gifts. So, we've been doing this now like 16 years, and it's been incredible. And so that's kind of how I found my way here.
That is a beautiful story. And I had no idea you were originally from Philadelphia area. That's also where I grew up.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
I was working in law offices while you were starting your fundraising career. Well, here we are talking major gifts.
Yeah.
And we're both in the major gifts arena, but you are front facing and research is supporting that effort. And I'm really excited to talk to you and hear your perspective on finding major gift prospects. I'm familiar with a lot of your training materials, and I'd love it if you would share, when someone says, what's a great major gift prospect? Let's go find them. Do you have a framework or a foundation on which you define that? Or how do you view that question?
Well, I want to identify what's the definition of major gift prospect. And for us at Veritas, we would say a major gift prospect is someone who is a donor. They would be the perfect prospect, but yet not in a portfolio. So this is a donor that's not in a portfolio that has given a gift, maybe who is engaged with you, attends events and emails, but yet has not been qualified. So for us, qualified means that you have a two-way relationship, like you've had engagement with this donor to find out, besides the fact that they've made a qualifying gift, let's say your major gift is 5,000 above or 10,000, whatever that is. They've made that gift, but you haven't yet had the engagement with them one-on-one to find out, do they really want that relationship? And so once they say yes to that, then they would be put into a portfolio. So the best prospect for major gifts are those donors that have given a qualified major gift, let's say, but we yet don't know if they want the relationship, because what we found out over the years, Jen, is that donors that hit that major gift mark, whatever that is for your organization, only a third of them want a deeper relationship with you. And so that's significant. That means two-thirds of donors actually say, hey, I love what you do, but I don't want this deeper relationship. I don't want a major gift officer working with me. And the idea is, if we can find out who those one-third is, it'll make the job and the work of the major gift officer so much easier. That would be a great major gift prospect. The other part of it is maybe on the outside. So that's an inside donor. But somebody who's not yet a donor, probably I would say the best kind of prospect would be someone that's connected to a board member or an other influencer that's associated with the organization. And then initially, that board member or influencer does the heavy lifting of kind of introducing that person to the organization. So that would be for us the best kind of major gift prospect.
Okay, I love it. So I didn't hear anywhere, I didn't hear you say wealth rating, capacity rating, like all of the stuff that is our bread and butter as researchers. If I have a large group of donors and I have major gift officers and I have to move people into their pipeline, I might not be able to see them give at what we consider a major gift level first. How do
Yes.
you bridge that?
Yeah, so that's also where we would say what we would like to do is go through what we call our qualifying process. So let's just say you have someone in there in your database that has high wealth capacity rating. Okay. And they've maybe given, let's say, $100 total. Well, then we would want, in our case, probably the mid-level team, a mid-level officer, reach out to that donor to find out their donor interests, all the information, and connect with that donor to find out if they truly have capacity and propensity to give to that organization. So while they might have all of these great numbers and data points to them, only until we've actually connected with them would we then consider them either a put them in a portfolio of a major gift officer, but most likely in a mid-level program until they actually gave that type of a gift that would say, yes, these really are major donors.
I so love that you said mid-level program because a lot of organizations will start with their development program. It's going well. They're getting some bigger gifts annually, cash gifts. They hire a major gift officer and then they want to go from, 50,000 to a million,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go well. And they end up taking a few steps back before they keep going forward and kind of forgot about that mid. Is that something you see frequently?
Yes. So what we have found over the last decade, well, a little bit more than a decade now, is that organizations are embracing mid-level. You're right. Before that, it was like the direct response or annual giving program and then major gifts. And there was nothing in the middle there. And so over the last, I would say since 2011 that I've seen, have organizations started to embrace having a mid-level officer program attached to their overall development program. And this has been great because this is where we're really trying to find out what are those passions and interests of the donor. We're starting to actually connect with that donor. And, the goal of that mid-level is really over time moving that donor into major gifts already qualified. So this is a donor that wants the relationship, has given that kind of a big enough gift to say, yes, they're a major donor, and then handing them over to a major gift officer who has much more time to meet with them one-on-one and really give them the attention that that donor needs. But that mid-level area is a great place for building that within the donor file.
I've also found that major gift officers love building a deeper relationship. They do not love doing a ton of superficial outreach.
Exactly. That is exactly it. In fact, it's interesting the research that we've done on programs without a major gift program versus those with a really good mid-level program. The ones without, donors move into major gifts at a 0.2 to 1.2% rate on their own into major gifts. With a mid-level program, we see between 3 to 4% of donors in that space move to major gifts. And that's significant. Everyone's wanting more major donors. And we're always saying, hey, they're already in your donor file. They're right there in that mid-level area. And in many cases, those mid-level donors have been treated as an annual fund donor or a direct response donor, and that's good. However, they want to do more. And having a mid-level program with a mid-level rep to finally introduce themselves to a real person really starts to move those donors into a new place because instead of giving 5,000 a year, they're now giving 25,000 a year. And we see this over and over again with a really good, robust mid-level program.
I love it that you have the percentages. That's fantastic. It really clarifies the impact it can
Yeah, it's
have.
huge impact.
Do you have any success stories you can share where research and prospect management really knocked it out of the park with their identification and pipeline building
Yeah.
efforts?
Well, here's my favorite researcher story. I will tell you this. I was giving a talk at LSU, Louisiana State University, several years ago. And so I had all their major gift officers. There were a ton of them. And I'm speaking to the group, and they had the prospect researchers there. And the head of prospect research was the only one asking questions because they're curious people, right? And she asked all these great questions. And she was particularly interested in what we call our donor engagement plan, which we use to help build a strategy for every one of the donors in a major gift portfolio so that we can tier the donors. We have a revenue goal that's cash flowed for every donor, and then a plan for every donor in that portfolio. So she was fascinated with this because in their database, they didn't have that kind of a tool. So she asked a lot of questions about that. And then what she did was have all of her prospect researchers help develop with the major gift officer their strategic plan for every one of their donors, their revenue goals based on their previous giving. Wealth capacity was in there, but it was more about their giving capacity currently and then where they could go with each of those donors. They tiered the donors A, B, and C. They did the whole, what we call the Veritus way. And then they met with the major gift officers every week and sat down with them and said, okay, how are we doing on the plan? What do you need? You're going to talk to this donor and this donor this week. What more can we research for you? What other information do you not have that we can help you with? And they did this every week with the major gift. Their program grew exponentially year over year because of that work. So that would be my favorite story of how prospect research and prospect management can help take a major gift program to another level. It was amazing.
That is an amazing story. It is the embodiment of strategic partner.
Yes.
We talk about it, we don't do it, or there isn't a culture to
Yes.
support it.
I mean, many times we think, oh, well, the major gift officers think, well, they're the prospect research, they just need to get me information about these, my top 10 donors so I have more information. And then they never actually sit down together, really, really, and talk through these donors the way that I would love them to. But the best prospect researchers are the ones that are, I would say, co-strategic partners with the MGO. They're working with them to be successful. I mean, ultimately, you want to know the passions and interests of that donor and match that up with all the different projects and programs of your organization. And so when you can do that, that is when donors will give to their heart's content, is when you can match the donor's passions and interests with everything that you're doing that's changing the world. And a great prospect researcher will help you be able to do that.
It also helps the major gift officer not chase the donor, but listen instead.
Yeah, I love that. No chasing donors.
Doesn't work well,
No,
doesn't end well.
no, it doesn't.
So before I let you go, I'm wondering if our listeners could implement just one change to their prospect ID process this week, what would you recommend?
I would say this. I would go back to my story I just told. If you could start having weekly meetings with your major gift officers and help them stay on track with their strategic plan, or if they don't have one, help them develop one based on the information you know about every one of these donors, that would be so incredible. You're helping them get new information. You're looking at what areas of interest that the donor has on an ongoing basis and really developing a relationship with that MGO. I think that would help major gift programs exponentially. That would be where I would want to focus. I would love you to have a really good relationship with those major gift officers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
That was Jeff Schreifels, principal and owner at Veritus Group. It was so good to hear his perspective on prospecting for major gifts. We researchers can get absolutely lost in the data points, wealth indicators, and days and stage, and that isn't always helpful. I hope you can keep a secret. I have a confession to make. I've been following the Veritus Group for years and reading all the white papers and resources that they give away for free. And I just bought Jeff and Richard's book. It's not just about the money, how to build authentic donor relationships. You too can benefit from this bounty. Check them out at www.veritusgroup.com. That's V as in Victor, ERI, T as in Tom, US Group.com. Hey there! Do you manage a prospect research team, or were you newly hired as a prospect researcher? Then you'll be delighted to hear about the Institute's Career Agent Track. In this bundle of 4 courses, participants learn how to build great profiles, calculate capacity ratings, the basics of prospect identification and prospect management, ethics, and the fundamentals of analytics every team member needs to be skilled in. If you need to build the research skills of a fundraising intelligence asset like this, sign up today at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org/career agent.